Hi, David. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. And thank you too for being here. And you see, David, you see, I have this anthem, and I use the word anthem because I say those words always, I say them often. You see, I oftentimes thank my guest for two main things. Firstly, David, I want to thank you for investing in yourself. And I truly mean this, all right? I truly, truly mean it. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. David, you say some months back, I was on this particular road, and you say just by the roadside was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it and it looks all dry and I just walk past it. But you see, David, just recently something changed. I was on that same road and this time around, sorry, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And I immediately got the urge to, move closer and have a good look, David. When I got closer, it wowed me. Because this time around the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful leaves, healthy branches, and not just mangoes, but you see ripe mangoes. So it was beautiful. And I kept staring at the beauty and admiring how beautiful it looks. The point is, the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today, David, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show. We've got to benefit from the fruit of your knowledge, of your insight and your philosophies. They are amazing, I tell you. So thank you so very much for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. So thank you so very much, David. I truly appreciate it. Okay, let's get started. You see, David, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, David, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, David, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing David on the show is for the sake of the listeners. David, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. How to do this and how to do that. How to become this and how to become that. So these folks trust me for quality information. And I am totally convinced, David, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, David, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious right now. We want to know how you got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, David, over to you.
Well, it's been an interesting blossoming of my own mango tree. That's for sure. I'm in my third act of life, as they like to say when you talk about life as a play. Act one, I was actually in show business. And then act two, I was in real estate, helping people buy and sell their homes. And now in act three, I'm in the service industry. I'm helping people with education and knowledge to help bring them to the light. Founded this company that is free information, giving back to people. Gosh, I'm almost 6 years into the journey, and I definitely feel like 5, 6 years ago, you would have seen that paltry tree, but now there's a whole lot of ripe mangoes happening in my life, and I couldn't be happier.
Amazing, amazing. That's a beautiful one. And I love the part you mentioned that you are helping people, trying to bring them to the light. And that's a great one. I love that. So we're going to begin the first question from the part you mentioned that you also into real estate and selling homes and all. So what are some tips that you can share with first time home buyers, for folks who want to buy homes for the very first time. They don't even have lots of experiences now. So, what are some tips or insight you would like to share with them?
I think that the reason why I started How to Buy a Home in this company to start to spread the word was because the knowledge was not there. And so the biggest tip I give everybody is seek the knowledge. Don't seek the sales. If you reach out to someone and they want to say, great, let me see your finances. Okay, let's go buy a home right now. That is unfortunately the way that a lot of people in the industry, a lot of the professionals, it's the way they work. It's far more important that you get a plan. And that plan does a wonderful thing. It eliminates the fear. Knowledge creates confidence. And if you can sit down with someone who says, all right, let's not try to do this next week. Let's try to do this year. And they're willing to give you the steps along the way. That is going to create a new confidence for you, eliminate the fear. And in today's society, when rents are constantly going up, the sooner that you can create a plan, and maybe it doesn't happen this year, maybe it happens next year. But if you don't start a plan, suddenly you wake up and it's 4 or 5 years later and you've spent a whole bunch of rent and your landlord got rich while you're in the same place.
Powerful words. Do not seek sales, seek knowledge. Knowledge creates confidence. I got that. That's a beautiful one. Okay, let us talk about okay, why do you think first time home buyers are underserved? You got that?
You know, it's difficult for me to talk about without sounding like what my grandma would call a negative Nelly. I'm a pretty positive person, but after 18 years in the real estate industry in North America, and I have friends in Australia who are also advocates for first-time home buyers, the industry itself doesn't treat them with the respect that they deserve. The goal as a real estate professional is to become successful enough that you work with the people selling the larger, more expensive homes, and they just continually give undertrained and unskilled licensed people to the buyers. And it's unfortunate because for most people, 95% of people in North America, it's the biggest financial transaction of their life. And then there's I could go into it for hours. The process in North America, the licensing is very simple. So a lot of the people that say they want to help you with the biggest financial transaction of their life are doing it as a hobby. They're not a full-time professional. So when you combine all that together, the first-time homebuyers get underserved because they think they're reaching out to someone who can serve them in the best way when they're actually reaching out to someone who's kind of using them as on-the-job training. And so finding the right person is so much more important than finding even the right interest rate. Yet, when you talk to a first-time homebuyer, that's all they're Googling. So I'm trying to just peel back the curtain and say the biggest part of this whole transaction is interviewing people and hiring the right person.
I got that. And that's so sad at the same time, You've got to respect people. Okay, so you talked about the affordability of, renting a home. So how can young renters today afford to own a house?
Woo! Good question.
Thank you.
I think if people know, if you've listened to, me talk for hours and hours, or listen to multiple different of the podcasts or the YouTubes or things that I do, people will understand my intention and my integrity. So I want to preface that by saying I understand how salesy this sounds, but I have the content to back it up. But I realize how this sounds. It's not that you can't afford to buy a home. It's that you can't afford not to. Now, that sounds like I'm, a used car salesman in a terrible outfit trying to push a deal on you. But what I really mean is the market has changed. The economy has changed. And so much of the advice that's being given is given by people who bought a home 20, 30 years ago. And they don't realize in the last 10 or 20 years, the average young person, their rent is eating up so much of their salary that it's if you continue to stay in the rental game, you'll never be able to start accumulating the wealth. Homeowners are 40 times more wealthy than renters. So I say sometimes on the show, it's not sexy. We're not going to go out and buy a house that is $1,000 less than your rent and, $50,000 off the best deal in town. But if you do the math long term, understanding that your home is a savings account and that your rent is the highest thing that you pay every single month. So it's not about trying to find something cheaper than your rent. It's understanding that taking that bill that you pay every month and turning it into a rent replacement strategy, that's what can accumulate real wealth for you. It's going to take a few years for that to get going, but the sooner you start, the larger that compounding interest takes place.
Wow, that's incredible. I got that. Okay, so how then do one choose the right real estate team?
Choosing the right real estate team is understanding the process first. And so, I've done episodes and videos on the interviews and the questions that you want to ask. The key is there are two main things. As the kids like to say, you want to vibe with them. You want to have a good connection with them, but you also need to make sure that they have experience, that they have worked with first-time homebuyers before, and you want to ask them about their personal, intimate knowledge of the market and of the strategies that they're using. So the simplest way is I tell people it's great if it feels like one of those TV shows and you have fun looking at houses, but make sure you ask them about their negotiation tactics, how many first-time home buyers they've worked with before, what tactics they've used in the past and what's worked, and help people because we are in such an unaffordable environment.
Okay, that's insightful. So here's this, let's say funny question. So when would the market crash again?
Oh, it's not a funny question. Everybody asks me this. I just read an article the other day that I put in the podcast that talked about how millennials have been waiting for the market to crash. I have to tell you, as a real estate nerd, because I do this every day, all day, I've been hearing this since 2016. People wanting the market to crash because we crashed 2008 to 2012 and then we went up. The problem is it's economics 101. It's supply and demand. And our supply is anywhere from 3 to 7 million homes less than what we need. And that was 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The home builders built 50% less. And so we were millions of homes behind. And as long as the supply stays lower than the demand, fortunately, it won't necessarily be the market crashing. It'll be people borrowing, and doing anything they can to get in. And we're already starting to see bidding wars happen in 2025. So we've got at least a couple of years before we see any kind of correction because the supply is just too low.
Too low, boy. And I never knew that. Thank you for educating us, man. So let us think about the best online resources for first-time home buyers. Can you share any?
Yeah. I've done a couple shows on my podcast where I went through different websites, different ways to use things. I personally like NPR, had a great podcast series on it. USAA, which is, a United States insurance company set up for veterans. They have one of the best first-time home buyer education. On my podcast, I try to help people learn how to use Google as a neighborhood researching device. We joke that it's kind of like how do you stalk a neighborhood, but it's something that people need to know how to use all those pieces. There's a couple websites, Niche and Hood Maps, and different websites that actually take outsiders' opinion and sort of rate the neighborhood and let you know what's going on with the neighborhood. Walk Score is a wonderful, if you're looking to find someplace where you want to live in an area where lots of things are walkable, you can get a score on 1 to 100 to see how walkable your home is. Doesn't happen very much where I am in Southern California because everybody drives. But, depending on where you live, it could be something for you. So in general, I think that you can use the big websites like Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com to research homes. But I warn everybody, all the realtors and lenders that you see on there are paid people. They paid to advertise to be there. So you really have to interview them carefully to understand if they really have your best interest at heart.
Okay, so that way do you think it is safe for folks to, yeah.
Yeah, I think you always want to do your own research. There are tons of places to do research, but I tell people first to get recommendations, get referrals from friends and family, from people that you actually know. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that do a great job that have advertisements, but in today's age, you want to research the person. And just remember, the person who has their picture next to a house online, that doesn't mean that person's the best person to help you look at that home. That's just somebody who paid to have an advertisement there. When you're trying to buy a home, you're hiring somebody that is so much more than a door opener. You're hiring somebody that you want to interview face to face months and months ahead of time. And so there are online resources that can help you. But I had a doctor that was on my podcast and I interviewed him, and I told him these are the ways to interview and find people to help you buy a home. And he went through a few different realtors and a real estate support team. And then when he finally found the right person, he started asking them questions. And when I interviewed him, he said to me, David, I realized I was doing what my patients do. They come in after they read WebMD and they start telling me all the things about what's wrong with them. And he goes, I spent all this time researching and interviewing the right person. At some point, I had to trust them and let go. And we laughed about it quite a bit, but he ended up, because of the research he did with that person, he wanted a fourplex. He ended up buying a single family home. He wanted to use a physician's loan. He ended up using a completely different loan product. And he bought a home, even though he had $300,000 worth of student loan doctor debt.
Amazing. I love that. Okay, so to bring this to an end, David, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And for those ones who like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've spoken about, or even listen to your podcast, how can that be possible?
Everything for me is at howtobuyahome.com. It's spelled out, howtobuyahome.com. You can go there. There's the podcast. There's YouTube. You can ask me a question. And probably the thing I want to leave them with is what you said at the beginning of the opening of the show. It has been such a huge part of my life, is that the continuing pursuit and thirst for knowledge. I think that it's a wonderful message. So I would leave them with continuing listening to you and your message. Keep that open mind and understand that we have more access to more information than ever right now. And I decided I want to do this to help these people that I felt were underserved. But I got a master's degree in podcasting and social media through other people's podcasts. There are wonderful people out there giving away information for free. So continue to listen to podcasts like you and continuing. Best thing I can tell people right now is you've got the world at your fingertips. Go get it.
Oh, get it. I got that. Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, David. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. I've learned a lot today. Thank you, man.
Thanks.